The soft night breeze flowed through the window, bringing with it the scent of the flowers that adorned my small garden. It was a special night, one of those where love seemed to float in the air, and I was determined to make those hours unforgettable. With a smile on my face, I set the dining table, covering it with an immaculate white tablecloth I had saved for special occasions. Candle by candle, I lit each one, watching the flames dance gently, reflecting my excitement and anticipation. As I prepared dinner, my mind was buzzing with thoughts of Lucas. I loved him. He was everything I had ever dreamed of. Caring, attentive, and with that special way of making me feel like I was the only woman in the world. He always had a sweet word, a look that made me feel special. Tonight, he's going to realize how much I care, I thought as I chopped the fresh vegetables. The soft music playing in the background helped create the perfect atmosphere. As the aroma of roasted chicken began to fill the kitchen, my heart raced. I'm going to nail it tonight, I murmured to myself, adding the finishing touch to a sauce I had learned to make from my grandmother. It was a family recipe, and I had always prepared it for moments of celebration. When dinner was ready, I set everything on the table, making sure every detail was perfect. The candles lit the room magically, and I couldn't help but smile at the thought of Lucas walking through the door. He arrived, as always, with that smile that lit up my world. "Hey, love. What have you cooked up this time?" he asked, with a twinkle in his eyes, as he entered the room and paused to admire the table. "Surprise. I hope you're hungry," I replied, laughing nervously. He came closer and gave me a gentle kiss, wrapping me in his arms. The warmth of his body was comforting, and in that moment, all my insecurities seemed to melt away. We sat down at the table, and while we ate, we talked about our dreams and plans. "I'm thinking about a trip to the beach next month. What do you think?" he asked, taking a sip of wine. "I'd love that. We can have a picnic on the sand and soak up the sun," I replied, imagining the perfect scene unfolding in my mind. "That's what I love about you, always so optimistic. You make everything seem more beautiful," he commented, with a look that made me feel like I was floating. The night continued with laughter and promises of a bright future. Lucas toasted to our love, and I lost myself in his eyes, believing that anything was possible. But deep in my mind, a shadow of doubt began to form. I was so absorbed in the moment that I didn't notice the message flashing on his phone until it appeared on the screen, unnoticed by him. The sender's name was there, and a chill ran down my spine. "Beatrice," I murmured, almost unwillingly. My heart raced, and a wave of doubt formed in my mind. "It can't be," I thought, trying to ignore the feeling that something was wrong. I decided to dismiss it, believing it was just a mistake, a coincidence. He had always been so sweet to me. It couldn't be true. The night unfolded, and I continued to strive to keep the atmosphere light and joyful. The music played, and Lucas pulled me to dance. As we twirled, I tried to focus on his presence, but the image of the message wouldn't leave my head. What was happening? I wondered. Maybe I'm being paranoid, I thought, trying to justify my unease. "You look so beautiful tonight," Lucas whispered, pulling me closer. The warmth of his body was comforting, and for a moment, I set aside my doubts and surrendered to the moment. But that message still echoed in my mind, like an insistent whisper. After dinner, we decided to sit on the couch and watch a movie. The mood was light, but the tension inside me grew. Each laugh we shared felt more distant, as if an invisible barrier separated us. I tried to distract myself, but curiosity and worry began to take over. "Hey, are you okay? You seem distant," Lucas asked, concerned, as he looked into my eyes. "I'm just thinking about a few things," I replied evasively. He smiled and shook his head as if not convinced, but chose not to press further. When the movie ended, Lucas got up to grab something from the kitchen. That moment of solitude was the push I needed. With my heart racing, I grabbed his phone that was on the table. The impulse to check the message was stronger than reason. With trembling hands, I unlocked the phone and searched for the conversation. As soon as I found it, the world around me seemed to collapse. The words were clear. The betrayal was there, exposed. My heart sank in a mix of pain and disbelief. The promises and dreams we had built together seemed to dissolve in an instant, like sand slipping through my fingers. When Lucas returned, I found the strength to face him. "We need to talk," I said, trying to keep my voice steady. He looked surprised but sat down in front of me, the smile fading slowly. "What happened, Emily?" he asked, his expression quickly shifting from curiosity to concern. I saw the message," I managed to say, my voice choking. The silence that followed was deafening. He opened his mouth, but words didn't come out. "Do you love her?" I asked, the pain evident in every word. He hesitated for a moment, and that was all I needed to realize that the truth was even more devastating than I could have imagined. "It's not what it looks like, Emily." "I can explain," he started, but his words sounded empty, as if there was no sincerity in them. What could he say that would change the betrayal I had already discovered? "I don't want to hear your excuses, Lucas. This isn't love," I said, anger and sadness mixing in my chest. The man I loved, who promised a future by my side, had turned into an illusion. "You can't throw this all away." "I love you," he exclaimed, but his words didn't resonate as true. I didn't want to hear empty promises anymore. "If you really loved me, you wouldn't have done this," I retorted, my voice breaking as tears began to slide down my face. I felt the pain was unbearable, as if my heart had been ripped out. The night, which should have been a celebration of our love, turned into a nightmare. I was confused, lost between pain and anger. What was I supposed to do next? How could I free myself from the chains that bound me? The love I felt for Lucas had turned into a weight on my shoulders, and I knew I needed support. That night would be just the beginning of a difficult journey, but at that moment, I couldn't imagine what was to come. What was true love, after all? And how could I find the light I had lost amid the darkness of betrayal? It was a calm night when I decided to prepare a romantic surprise for Lucas. The house was filled with candles, and the aroma of a dish I had prepared lingered in the air. The table was impeccably set, with wine glasses and a bouquet of fresh flowers, everything to create the perfect atmosphere. As I arranged the details, I couldn't help but think about how he always made me feel special. There was a magic in Lucas that enveloped me. He made promises of a radiant future that filled me with hope and dreams. When he arrived, the expression on his face upon seeing the surprise made my heart race. "Wow, Emily! You're full of surprises," he said, with a smile that lit up his face. My heart melted. Dinner began, and the mood was pure happiness. Lucas toasted to love, and I couldn't help but feel on cloud nine, believing that everything was perfect. "I can't imagine my life without you," he declared, and I smiled, feeling that everything was exactly where it should be. But then everything changed. As the conversation flowed, a text message appeared on Lucas's phone, which was on the table. The sender's name was someone I didn't recognize. A chill ran down my spine, but I tried to ignore it, convinced it was just a mistake. What I didn't know was that this message would be the first sign of a storm approaching. Restlessness grew within me, and in a split second, I decided I needed to investigate. It wasn't that I wanted to distrust him, but my curiosity was greater than my fear. I went to where he had left his phone and, in a moment of hesitation, opened the messages. What I found was devastating. A conversation between Lucas and another woman, full of declarations of love and promises that should have been ours alone. My world collapsed. The air escaped my lungs, and my hands trembled. When Lucas returned from the kitchen, smiling, I couldn't contain myself. "Lucas, we need to talk," I said, my voice almost breaking. He looked at me, confused. "What happened, Em?" "I found your messages," I blurted out, anger and sadness mixed in my voice. He turned pale. "What do you mean by that?" He tried to look away, but I wouldn't let him. "You know very well what I'm talking about. You can't fool me." Lucas started to justify himself, but his words felt so empty, so manipulative. "Emily, you don't understand. It was a mistake. I love you, not her." He was trying to convince me, but I knew it was a lie. You can't tell me you love someone while texting another person. That's not love, Lucas. The conversation turned into a battle of words. I was furious, but sadness consumed me. All I wanted was not to be going through this. The feeling of betrayal was so intense that it felt suffocating. In a moment of despair, I left the house, not knowing where to go. The only place I could think of was Clara's house, my best friend. "Clara, I need you," I said as soon as she answered the door. Her expression became serious immediately. "What happened, Em?" I couldn't hold back the tears. "Lucas. He cheated on me. I don't know what to do." Clara hugged me tightly, and I felt some of the weight dissipate. "You can't let this destroy you. You're stronger than you think," she said as she led me inside. We went to the kitchen where she made hot tea. As the water boiled, Clara looked me in the eyes. "What he did is horrible, but you need to fight for yourself now. You deserve so much more." We sat at the table and I vented. I always believed he was the love of my life. Now I feel like I've lost everything. Clara held my hand. "Emily, you haven't lost anything. You're about to rediscover who you are. That relationship was holding you back. Now is the time to break free." Her words began to resonate within me. I had always put Lucas first, forgetting about myself. But what if I never find someone like him again? I asked, insecurity taking over. Clara shook her head. "You don't need someone like him. You need someone who makes you shine, who sees you as the amazing woman you are." As we talked, I began to realize that there was a light at the end of the tunnel. The idea of empowering myself, of rediscovering myself, started to excite me. "Maybe I should get back to photography," I said, thinking out loud. Clara smiled. "Yes, remember how much you loved capturing moments. This could be a way for you to find yourself again." That was a turning point that began to change my perspective. Clara's friendship gave me strength and the certainty that I wasn't alone. I needed to face this pain and turn it into something positive. We talked late into the night, and with each word I felt a little more clarity. I didn't want to be seen as the victim, but as the woman who would fight for her happiness. The road would be difficult, but I was determined to move forward. After that night, life went on, but I realized I needed to take a step forward. Lucas's betrayal would not be the end of my story. It was time to free myself from the ties that bound me to a toxic relationship and rediscover the strong woman I had always been. The journey was just beginning, and I was ready to embrace the unknown. The sunlight streamed through the window of my living room, illuminating the space as I set the table for the romantic dinner I had planned for Lucas. The candles were carefully positioned, and the flowers I had chosen with such care exuded a subtle fragrance that filled the air. I was excited, full of expectations, believing that this would be an important step for us. After all, Lucas always seemed to have the gift of making me feel special. He talked about the future we dreamed of together, and I let myself be carried away by his promises. As I arranged the table, I couldn't help but reflect on how he made me feel. It was as if I were living in a fairy tale, where everything was perfect. "Tonight, everything will be amazing," I thought, smiling to myself. I believed our love was true, that nothing could shake what we had built together. But at the same time, a slight unease settled in my heart, a premonition I couldn't explain. When Lucas arrived, the smile that lit up his face made my heart race. He looked so charming in that shirt I loved. "Surprise!" I exclaimed, pulling out a chair for him to sit. The dinner flowed with laughter and stories, and when he toasted to love, I felt on cloud 9. The atmosphere was perfect, and in that moment everything seemed right in the world. But then, something I didn't expect happened. While Lucas was distracted, his phone vibrated on the table. The screen lit up and, unintentionally, I saw the name that appeared. Mariana. A chill ran down my spine. I knew a Mariana, but she was just an acquaintance of Lucas. Mistake, I thought. It couldn't be anything serious. I chose to ignore that strange feeling and continued the evening, trying to convince myself it was just a coincidence. After that dinner, the unease persisted. I decided to investigate. In the days that followed, the doubt grew inside me like a shadow. A forgotten message, a slip-up that Lucas had made, and I found it. The content was devastating. The betrayal was there, raw and naked, and my world crumbled in seconds. Anger and sadness mingled, and I knew I had to confront him. "Lucas, we need to talk," I said, trying to stay calm, but my voice trembled. He looked at me, confused. "About what, Emily?" His expression made me even more insecure. "About you and Mariana," I said, feeling my heart race. He tried to justify himself, but his words sounded empty, as if he were just repeating something he thought I wanted to hear. "She's just a friend," he said, but I couldn't believe it. I felt the manipulation in every syllable. "Friend?" I asked, the pain manifesting in every word. "You cheated on me, Lucas. That's not friendship." The conversation turned into a whirlwind of emotions, and I felt lost, helpless. It wasn't just the betrayal that hurt. It was the fact that I had trusted someone who didn't deserve my trust. Desperate, I sought support from Clara, my best friend. She was always there to listen, to understand me. "Emily, you need to put yourself first. Don't let him make you feel less than you are," she said, holding my hand. The warmth of her presence brought me a little comfort. "I don't know how to move on," I confessed, tears streaming down my face. "I thought he was the love of my life." Clara looked me in the eyes and said, "Sometimes the people we love the most are the ones who hurt us the most. But you're strong, and you need to fight for yourself." Her words resonated within me, like an echo of hope I didn't know still existed. It was then that she started sharing her own insecurities, her struggles as an artist. "I've always put my dreams aside for other people," she said, and I listened closely. Inspired by Clara's strength, I realized there was something I had left behind: my passion for photography. I remembered how I loved to capture moments, freezing the beauty of the little things. "I'm going to start taking pictures again," I told Clara, feeling a spark of determination ignite within me. "That's great, Emily. Let's do it together." The idea of working on a photography project together gave me a boost. In the days that followed, Clara and I began exploring the city with our cameras. We captured the beauty of the details that went unnoticed, each click of the lens becoming a form of liberation. "Look, Emily, see this light," Clara said, pointing to the sunset reflecting on the river's waters. "It's perfect." I looked through the lens, and for a moment, everything that had hurt me seemed distant. As we photographed, my self-confidence began to return. I felt alive again. "I didn't know I still had this in me," I said to Clara one day as we reviewed the photos we had taken. "You always had it, you just needed a push," she replied, smiling. The friendship we were rebuilding was a balm for my wounded soul. Over the weeks, photography became a form of expression and self-discovery. Each image I captured reminded me of who I really was, beyond the toxic relationship that had imprisoned me. And alongside Clara, I not only rediscovered my passion but also the strength that existed within me, something I had long forgotten. With each new photo, I felt as if I was breaking free from the chains that bound me to Lucas. The city, with its colors and shapes, became a new blank canvas where I could project who I truly wanted to be. I finally began to believe that the light I was seeking wasn't just in a romantic love, but within myself. And with Clara's help, I was determined to find that light. The sunlight filtered through the living room window, creating a cozy atmosphere as I prepared for the dinner I dreamed of making for Lucas. The candles were carefully arranged on the table, and the aroma of my favorite dish, a lemon risotto, filled the air. I looked in the mirror, trying to find the confidence I so desperately wanted. "Today, everything will be perfect," I thought. Lucas always had that power over me. His words were like a spell, and I was completely under his charm. He said I was special, that we were made for each other. And for a moment I truly believed it. When he arrived, the expression on his face was one of pure joy. The toast to love, the look in my eyes, everything felt like a fairy tale. "I love you, Emily," he said, and I smiled, feeling my heart warm. But suddenly, something interrupted my happiness. A message notification on his phone. The name that appeared on the screen, a woman I didn't know, made my stomach churn. "It can't be," I murmured to myself. I decided to ignore it, convinced it was just a mistake. In the following days, the unease grew within me. The message wouldn't leave my mind. I needed to know the truth. One day while he was in the bathroom, I grabbed his phone, my heart racing. The message I found was a direct blow to the chest. The words were clear, and the pain spread through me like a wave. I felt betrayed not just by him but by everything I had believed. When Lucas came out of the bathroom, I was already standing, rage and sadness boiling inside me. "Emily, what happened?" he asked, noticing the expression on my face. "You know, don't you?" I said, trying to keep my voice steady. "I saw the message." He hesitated, and that was all I needed. "You cheated on me, Lucas." The truth was exposed, and his attempts to justify himself sounded empty. He said it was a mistake, that it meant nothing, but the words had no weight. It was as if all the promises he had made were disintegrating before me. Desperate, I sought support from Clara, my best friend. When I arrived at her apartment, I was in tears. "Emily, you deserve more than this," she said, pulling me into a tight hug. Clara always knew what I needed to hear, and in that moment, her support was everything. "You need to fight for yourself. Don't let him make you feel inferior." Her words were like balm, but the internal struggle within me was intense. I felt a jumble of emotions: anger, sadness, and a profound sense of loss. The conversation with Clara was revealing. She shared her own insecurities and unfulfilled dreams, and I realized that even in her pain she found strength. "I always wanted to be an artist, but I let life take me away," she confessed. Her words ignited a light within me. "I also set aside what I love," I murmured, thinking of photography, my passion that had been suffocated by the toxic relationship with Lucas. Determined to reclaim part of myself, I began to explore photography again. With each click of the camera, each image captured, something within me began to heal. Clara and I went out together, photographing the beauty of the city, and with each passing day, our friendship grew stronger. "Look at this light," I said, pointing to the way the sun illuminated the trees in a park. Clara smiled, and I could see the happiness in her eyes, just like mine. However, the nightmares began to haunt me. At night, I found myself back at that table, the candles still lit, but the atmosphere changed. Lucas was there, and the betrayal unfolded before me in an endless cycle. I woke up gasping, heart racing and mind in turmoil. How could I have been so blind? How could I have believed his promises? Despite the nightmares, Lucas did not give up on me. He started reaching out, saying he wanted to make amends. "Emily, I was wrong. Please give me a chance," he pleaded. Every time I heard his voice, a part of me wanted to believe, but another part, the stronger one, knew that his words were just empty promises. I could not return to a relationship that hurt me. The pain of betrayal was still fresh, and the idea of starting over with him felt unbearable. One night, while talking to Clara, I made a decision. "I need time for myself," I said, my voice steady. "I can't go back to this. I can't allow myself to be hurt again." Clara nodded, her eyes full of understanding. "You're doing the right thing, Emily. Focusing on yourself is the first step to healing." The days were tough, but I was determined. The internal struggle still existed, but now I was starting to feel strong. Each photograph I took was a step toward recovery. And even though Lucas's shadow was still present, I knew I was beginning to find my own light again. The night was magical, just as I had always dreamed it would be. Candle lit, the aroma of fresh food in the air, and a soft playlist playing in the background. I was about to surprise Lucas, believing he was the man I had always waited for. The table was elegantly set, every detail thoughtfully arranged. As I arranged the cutlery, I couldn't help but smile at the memory of how he made me feel special, as if I were living in a fairy tale. I thought about how he always talked about our future together, about the house we would have and the children we would raise. It all seemed so perfect in my mind. "Emily, you really outdid yourself this time," Lucas exclaimed as he walked through the door and saw the table. His face lit up with a genuine smile, and I got lost in those eyes I loved so much. "This is amazing. I wanted us to have a special moment, just the two of us, I replied, my heart racing with anticipation. Shall we toast to our love? He raised his wine glass, and with a glimmer in his eye, he made a toast. To our love and a bright future. That phrase echoed in my mind, filling me with hope. But deep down, an unease began to surface. The message I saw on his phone before he walked in still troubled me, but I pushed it aside. It was just a misunderstanding, I thought, a typo. Dinner continued, filled with laughter and promises. However, as we talked, Lucas's phone vibrated on the table. I couldn't help but look, and at that moment my heart stopped. The name that appeared on the screen was like a blow. Woman. A chill ran down my spine. I decided to ignore it just for a moment, forcing myself to believe it was just a friend. But the unease wouldn't leave me. That very night, while he was distracted, I grabbed Lucas's phone and searched for the message. What I found was devastating. The words jumped off the screen like sharp blades, cutting what was left of my heart. The betrayal was undeniable, and the weight of disillusionment fell upon me like a storm. I wanted to scream, cry, but all I managed was a deafening silence. How could he do this to me? The next day, consumed by anger and pain, I confronted Lucas. Why did you do this? My voice trembled, but I was determined to know the truth. Emily, I can explain. He tried to justify himself, but his words sounded empty, as if he was just trying to save himself. It was a mistake, it means nothing. A mistake. You think this is just a mistake? I couldn't believe what I was hearing. You broke the trust one had in you. After that conversation, I knew I needed support. That's when I turned to Clara, my best friend. She had always been my safe harbor, someone who understood me and never judged me. Clara, I don't know what to do. He cheated on me, and it felt like everything I believed was a lie. I vented, tears streaming down my face. Emily, you need to fight for yourself. Don't let this bring you down. You are stronger than you think, Clara replied, her gaze firm and encouraging. Let's do something together, something that makes you feel alive again. The idea of rediscovering my passion for photography began to blossom in my mind. It was something I loved but had set aside because of Lucas. Let's do a photography project, capturing the beauty of the city, I suggested, feeling excitement grow within me. I love this idea. Let's go out tomorrow and start, Clara replied, her smile brightening my day. Together we ventured through the city, me with the camera in hand and Clara by my side. I began to see the world through a new lens, each click of the camera bringing back the excitement I had lost. Photography became an escape, a way to express everything I was feeling. As I worked on my photos, I started to realize that the memories of Lucas still tormented me. I had recurring nightmares where he appeared, surrounding me with empty promises and manipulative words. One night, after a particularly distressing dream, I woke up in tears. I needed time for myself, time to heal and understand what I really wanted. One morning, during an art exhibition where Clara was participating, I met Gabriel, a longtime friend. He was someone who had always inspired me, and the conversation flowed naturally. Emily, it's been so long. Are you still photographing? He asked, the sparkle in his eyes showing his joy at seeing me. Actually, I'm trying to reconnect with that, I replied, a shy smile forming on my face. Lately, I've been feeling a bit lost. Gabriel encouraged me to participate in a photography contest. You have an incredible talent, don't let it fade away because of someone who doesn't appreciate you, he said, his voice full of sincerity. His words penetrated me like a ray of light, and I began to believe that I could find my way again. Do you really think I should do this? I asked, hesitant, but a part of me was getting excited about the idea. Of course. You deserve to dedicate yourself to what you love. And I'll be here to support you, he replied, his contagious smile giving me the confidence I needed. I accepted Gabriel's proposal, promising myself that I would dedicate myself to my art and my happiness. Photography became an extension of me, a way to rediscover who I really was. Each capture reminded me that I had the power to shape my destiny, away from the shadows of Lucas. As I delved into this new beginning, I realized that my friendship with Clara was strengthening day by day. Deep conversations about our fears and insecurities became common, and I saw Clara blossoming in her own art. The mutual support we shared helped us grow, and I felt that I was finally starting to find myself again. The journey was far from easy, but each step I took brought me closer to the strong woman I knew I could be. And as much as the past still haunted me, the light of hope was beginning to shine once more. I sat on the porch, watching the sunset paint the sky in warm hues, while the gentle breeze caressed my face. The day had been long, and the memories of Lucas still hammered in my mind, like a sad song I couldn't forget. I had distanced myself from him, but the shadow of his behavior still chased me. Clara was by my side, sitting in a rocking chair, with a glass of lemonade in her hands. Her presence always brought a little peace, but even so, the weight of betrayal and pain was still hard to bear. "Emily, are you okay?" Clara asked, her voice soft but filled with concern. She always knew when something was wrong, and it was no different now. The silence that followed was heavy, and I knew I needed to open my heart, but it wasn't easy. "I'm trying to be strong, Clara, but it's complicated. Sometimes I feel like I'm trapped in a bubble, and I can't breathe," I replied, looking at the clouds that were slowly dissipating on the horizon. "I think Lucas still has a huge impact on me." She sighed, setting her glass aside and turning to me. "It's normal to feel that way, but you need to understand that he doesn't deserve your energy, Emily. He shaped your perception of yourself in such a negative way." "I know, but it's hard. I spent so much time believing he was the right man. He made me feel special, and now all of that feels like a lie." I remembered all the promises he had made, how he always told me I was the only one. The pain mingled with anger, and I didn't know how to deal with it. Sometimes the people we love aren't who we think they are. Lucas didn't appreciate you, and that's not a reflection of who you are, but of who he is. Clara spoke firmly, her eyes fixed on mine. "You need to remember your worth. What he did doesn't erase the amazing woman you are." "I know, but what if I never find someone who makes me feel that way again? What if I'm alone forever?" My voice cracked with insecurity. The fear of being alone consumed me, and I didn't know how to fight it. Clara shook her head and smiled softly. "You won't be alone, Emily. Look at us. We have our friends, and you have talent. Photography, art. You shouldn't lose yourself because of someone who doesn't deserve you. You are a strong and independent woman, and that's what really matters." "You're right, but it's easier said than done. Sometimes I feel like his absence is like a hole inside me. I spent so much time devoted to him that I don't know how to reconnect with who I really am." I looked down at the ground, feeling sadness take over me once more. "So start slow. Let's rediscover your passions together. Remember who you were before him. Let's do something fun, something that makes you smile. I want to see you happy again." Clara leaned forward, her eyes shining with enthusiasm. "How about a photo session? We can explore the city and capture the beauty around us." A photo session. That could be fun. I felt a twinge of hope at the thought of rediscovering my passion for photography. But what if I'm not good enough? What if I can't take a good photo? "Hey, don't think like that. The important thing is to have fun and express yourself. Don't worry about the outcome. Art is about the journey, not about perfection. Let's just enjoy the moment." Clara smiled, and her confidence began to infect me. "You always know how to cheer me up." I took a deep breath, feeling the positive energy radiating from her. "So let's do this. Let's explore and take lots of photos." In the days that followed, Clara and I ventured around the city, visiting parks, plazas, and hidden corners we had never noticed before. With each click of the camera, I felt a part of me resurfacing. The vibrant colors of nature, the soft sunlight, and the smiling faces of strangers became my new inspiration. Clara encouraged me to look at the world differently, and gradually I began to feel freer. One afternoon, while we were in a park, Clara turned to me with a radiant smile. "Look at that light, Emily. It's perfect for a photo." She pointed to the golden light filtering through the leaves of the trees. I raised the camera and took some pictures, feeling a growing sense of accomplishment. This is amazing. I'm starting to remember how good it feels to do this. I smiled genuinely, joy starting to take over me. Thank you for reminding me, Clara. You don't need to thank me. That's what friends do, right? She winked at me and I laughed. Now let's keep going. I want you to capture what you're feeling, not just what you see. And that's what we did. With each new photo, I felt I was reconnecting with my essence. Each click became a form of expression, a way to free myself from the chains that Lucas had placed on me. In each image, I put a piece of my heart, and slowly, the pain of betrayal began to dissipate, giving way to a new understanding of myself. That night, after a day full of laughter and clicks, Clara and I sat on the couch, reviewing the photos we had taken. I looked at each one and realized something. I wasn't just capturing moments. I was recreating my identity. These photos are amazing, Emily. You truly have an incredible talent, Clara said, and her enthusiasm was contagious. You need to show this to the world. Do you really think I should? I don't want people to see this and think it's just a hobby. Insecurity still lingered in my mind, but for the first time, there was a spark of confidence in my voice. Of course you should. You have something valuable to share. And I'll be here to support you every step of the way. Clara looked at me seriously, and I could feel the sincerity in her words. Thank you, Clara. I feel like I'm starting to find myself again. But I'm still afraid of failing. I confessed, the fear still present but no longer overwhelming. It's normal to be afraid, but you're not alone. Remember, what matters is how you feel doing this. And who cares about other people's judgments? You're doing this for you, and that's what really counts, Clara said, and her words resonated in my mind. That night, as I prepared to sleep, something changed within me. I was no longer the woman who let Lucas define me. I was beginning to rediscover myself, and this was just the beginning. The weight of the past still existed, but now I had the strength and support of Clara to help me overcome it. The journey would still be long, but with each step, I was closer to becoming the woman I had always wanted to be. The sunlight filtered through the curtains, and the warmth of the morning filled my room, bringing a sense of comfort. However, my heart was far from feeling comfortable. I found myself sitting on the edge of my bed, with a box of old photos in my hands. The poetry contained in each image seemed to call me, but I hesitated. There was something in each click that reminded me not only of happy moments but also of a pain I was trying to leave behind. As I flipped through the photos, one image in particular made me stop. It was a picture of Lucas, smiling, with a seductive look that had always captivated me. But beside him, in an intimate pose, was another woman. A wave of cold ran down my spine. What was I doing? I was torturing myself with memories that should be left in the past. With a heavy sigh, I tossed the box aside and stood up, determined to seek some clarity. I decided to find Clara. She had always been my anchor, the person who could help me see life from a new perspective. When I arrived at the cafe where we used to meet, she was already waiting for me, with a cup of coffee and a warm smile. "Hey, are you okay?" she asked, instantly sensing that something was off. "No, Clara. I found a picture of Lucas and his mistress. I don't know why I still have this here," I replied, my voice faltering as I spoke his name. "I thought I had gotten over this." Clara frowned, her expression turning serious. "Emily, you don't need to feel bad for still having those memories. They are part of your story, but they don't define who you are now." "I know," I mumbled, looking down. "But sometimes it feels like he's still controlling my life, even from afar." "Then you need to let him go once and for all," Clara said, her voice firm. "I know it's hard, but you are stronger than you think. And I'll be here to help you." Her words were like a balm for my wounded soul. We talked for hours, sharing stories and laughter, as the pain I carried began to dissipate. But still, Lucas's presence lingered over me like a shadow, and I knew I needed to confront him once and for all. That afternoon, as I returned home, I found the courage to review the messages I had ignored. Lucas's messages were there, insistent, each one more manipulative than the last. He was trying to convince me that everything could go back to normal, that he could change. But I knew that wasn't true. With each word I read, I felt more disgusted. How could I have been so blind? I decided it was time to face this situation. I grabbed my phone and called Clara. "I need to see you. Now," I said, my voice trembling. "Of course. I'm on my way to your house," she replied promptly. Before long, she was in my living room, her expression worried. "What happened? I can't let him have control over me anymore. I need to confront him and tell him how I really feel," I declared, feeling determination rising within me. "That's great, Emily. You're ready for this. We can go together if you need." "You're not alone," Clara said, holding my hand. The idea of confronting Lucas made me nervous, but at the same time, there was a sense of relief in knowing I wouldn't be alone in that moment. We sat on the couch, and I began to jot down some ideas about what I wanted to say. Each word seemed clearer as I wrote them down. When the time for the meeting arrived, my heart was racing. I went to the cafe where Lucas always went, and soon I saw him sitting there, his gaze fixed on his phone. He didn't seem to notice my entrance. I took a deep breath and approached the table. "Lucas," I said with a firm voice, making him look up. His smile faded when he saw me. "We need to talk." "Emily, what a surprise," he said, trying to keep his composure, but I could see the tension in his body. "Are you okay?" "No, I'm not okay. I found a picture of you and your mistress. There's no going back. You betrayed me, and it hurt me in a way I never thought possible," I declared, feeling anger and pain intertwining in my words. He opened his mouth to protest, but I interrupted him. "Don't come at me with your excuses. I don't want to hear your empty promises. I'm no longer the girl you knew. I'm a woman who is learning to value herself, and I won't accept less than I deserve." "Emily, you don't understand." I was confused. I got carried away. He tried to argue, but his voice was shaky. I didn't want to hear his justifications anymore. "Confused. You hurt me. You not only broke the trust one had in you but also destroyed the image I had of us. Now, I need some time for myself. We need to put an end to this once and for all," I asserted, feeling a wave of freedom as I uttered those words. Lucas seemed to be in shock, but I didn't care. I just needed to break free. "You can't just leave me like this," he said, frustration evident in his voice. "I can and I will," I replied, holding my gaze steady. "I am no longer yours. I am mine." The conversation dragged on for a few more minutes, but I knew that nothing he said could change my decision. As soon as we said our goodbyes, I felt as if a weight had been lifted off my shoulders. I no longer had to live in the shadow of his betrayal. On my way home, I was flooded with a mix of emotions. There was sadness for the loss of what I thought we had, but also a growing sense of empowerment. I had finally taken the reins of my life. When I got home, Clara was there waiting for me. "You did it, didn't you?" she asked, her eyes shining with pride. "Yes, I did. I finally told him I don't want anything more. I'm ready to move on," I replied, my voice full of determination. She hugged me, and in that moment I knew I was surrounded by the right people. I still had a long way to go, but I felt like I had finally taken the first step toward reclaiming my life. The atmosphere was electrically charged in the exhibition hall. I was nervous, my heart racing and my breath quickening, but there was a flame of determination burning inside me. It was the day of the photography contest, an event I had hesitated to participate in, but now felt like an opportunity to assert myself, to rise again after everything I had been through. I looked around and saw Clara and Gabriel, my pillars of support, there, watching me with encouraging smiles. Clara approached, her expression a mix of anticipation and excitement. "Emily, you look amazing. I'm so proud of you for getting this far," she said, her eyes sparkling. "Thank you, Clara. But I still don't know if I'm ready for this. What if no one likes my photos?" I tried to hide my insecurity, but the doubt still lingered over me like a weight. You need to believe in yourself. Your photos are incredible. They capture the essence of your soul, and that's what matters, she replied, giving me a gentle push on the shoulders to encourage me. And remember, you're not alone. We'll do this together. Gabriel, who was by our side, chimed in with a smile. And if you don't win, what matters is that you had the courage to put yourself out there. That's a victory in itself. Look at how far you've come, Emily. What's important is how you feel doing this. His words echoed in my mind as I tried to control the tide of emotions washing over me. You're right, Gabriel. I just feel like I need to show everyone what I'm capable of, that I'm no longer the woman who was swayed by empty promises, I confessed, looking at the photos displayed on the walls. The images were a reflection of my journey. Each click of the camera captured a piece of me, a moment of rediscovery. From the urban landscapes I had explored with Clara to the portraits of unknown faces I encountered on the streets. Each photo had a story, an emotion I had learned to express. Before I could process everything, a crowd began to gather around my photos. My heart raced. I saw people pointing, commenting, and a wave of nervousness took over me. What now? I murmured to Clara, who was by my side. You just need to listen to what they have to say. Take a deep breath and enjoy this moment, she replied, holding my hand. The feeling of support comforted me, and I took a deep breath, trying to absorb the positive energy surrounding me. A few minutes passed, and soon one of the judges began to approach. He was a middle-aged man, with a critical look and a thoughtful expression. Are you the photographer of these images? He asked, looking directly into my eyes. Yes, that's me, I replied, trying to hide the tremor in my voice. I can tell that your photos have a unique sensitivity. The way you capture light and shadow is impressive. What inspired you to create this series? He inquired, gesturing toward one of my photos. I went through a difficult time, and while exploring the city, I realized that beauty is everywhere, even in the darkest moments. Photography helped me rediscover who I am, I explained, feeling a wave of sincerity flood my speech. That's profound. It's good to see that art can be a form of healing. Keep on this path, he said before walking away, leaving me a little more relieved. As the exhibition progressed, more people stopped to admire my work, and I began to feel more confident. Each compliment I received was like a balm for my soul. You are an artist, said a gray-haired woman, her eyes shining. These photos have a story to tell. Thank you. That means a lot to me, I replied, feeling her words resonate within me. While I chatted with other visitors, Clara and Gabriel stayed close, always ready to support me. At one point, Clara came over and whispered to me, "Look at you, Emily. You're glowing. I can't believe I'm doing this." "It's so liberating," I said, feeling the adrenaline coursing through my body. With each new conversation, I felt stronger and more secure. I remembered every step I had taken to get here, every tear I had shed, every moment I had thought about giving up. It was an autonomy that I was finally embracing. After a while, I realized I was ready for the next step, the contest. The nervousness began to return, but I remembered what Clara and Gabriel had said. It didn't matter what the outcome was. It was already a victory to have put myself out there. "Emily, are you ready to give your speech?" Gabriel asked, his eyes full of encouragement. "Speech? I haven't prepared anything," I exclaimed, panic starting to set in. "Calm down. Just talk about how you feel. That's what matters," he replied, winking at me. With one last look at Clara, who gave me an encouraging smile, I took a deep breath and, with my head held high, walked toward the microphone. The room was filled with curious faces, and the pressure began to make me sweat. "Hi everyone. My name is Emily, and I'm the photographer of these works you see here. I'm here not only to show my work but to share a bit of my story." I began, my voice firm but with a slight tremor. As I spoke, the words began to flow. Photography has become my way of expressing my journey of self-discovery. I went through a relationship that made me forget who I was, but art brought me back to myself. Each image here represents a piece of my soul, a struggle that I am finally winning. There was a respectful silence, and I continued. I know that many of you may have faced similar challenges. I want you to know that you are not alone. Sometimes we need to lose ourselves to find ourselves again. When I finished, a wave of applause followed. I couldn't believe what I had just done. I looked at Clara, who had tears in her eyes, and Gabriel, who was smiling proudly. The feeling of freedom and empowerment that washed over me was indescribable. I had finally found my voice, and there was nothing more powerful than that. The opening night of my exhibition was everything I had dreamed of and more. The gallery walls were adorned with my photographs, capturing moments of beauty and truth that I had found in the city. The smell of red wine and the fragrance of flowers mingled in the air as friends and admirers enjoyed my work. I felt euphoric, a feeling I hadn't experienced in a long time. Clara was by my side, her radiant smile reflecting the pride she felt for me. "You look amazing, Emily. Look at how everyone is admiring your photos," Clara exclaimed, holding a glass of wine in her hand. The joy in her eyes was contagious, and I hugged her, thanking her for being by my side throughout this process. "Thank you, Clara. I wouldn't have made it this far without you. I feel so free," I replied, feeling the emotion rise in my throat. People moved around us, and I couldn't help but feel that I was finally finding myself again. Each click of the camera, each image printed on the wall, was a testament to my journey of self-discovery. Then, amidst the conversation and laughter, a shadow approached. When I realized who it was, my heart stopped for a moment. Lucas. He was standing at the entrance of the gallery, his gaze fixed on me. I hadn't expected to see him here, not now, not after everything that had happened. The smile that had once lit up my face vanished in an instant. He looked so familiar yet at the same time distant. "Emily," he said, his tone a mix of surprise and expectation. I took a deep breath, trying to control myself. "What are you doing here, Lucas?" I asked, trying to keep my voice steady, but I couldn't hide the tremor that accompanied it. I heard about your exhibition and wanted to see." "I'm so proud of you," he said, his eyes scanning the details of my photographs, as if trying to find a connection to what had once been ours. "Proud? You have a strange way of showing it," I said, anger beginning to bubble over. "After everything that happened, you come here as if nothing has happened." "Emily, I know I made mistakes," Lucas began, but I didn't want to hear any more. "Mistakes? You cheated on me, Lucas. Those aren't just mistakes. You destroyed the trust one had in you." The words came out like a shout, and a few heads turned in our direction. The tension in the air was palpable. "I did terrible things, I know. But I've changed, I'm trying to be a better person," he said, his look pleading for understanding. "And does that erase the pain you caused me?" I took a deep breath, trying to calm myself. "You don't understand, do you? I'm no longer the woman you knew. I fought hard to find myself again, and you are not part of this new version of me." Clara stepped closer, putting her hand on my arm as if to give me strength. "Come on, Emily. We don't need this," she said gently, but I knew I had to face it. "You can't just show up out of nowhere and expect me to fall into your arms again. I'm not the same, Lucas. I'm stronger now," I said, my voice firm and clear. "I just want a chance. I can prove I've changed," he insisted, his expression a mix of desperation and hope. "A chance?" I laughed, but there was no joy in my laughter. "You don't understand. This isn't about giving a chance or not. It's about me respecting myself. You can't just come back as if nothing happened. I can no longer allow you into my life." At that moment, Gabriel appeared by my side, sensing the tension. He looked at Lucas, then back at me. "How are you, Emily?" he asked, trying to lighten the heavy atmosphere. "I'm fine, Gabriel. I'm fine," I replied, looking at Lucas. "But he shouldn't be here." Lucas glared at Gabriel, his eyes narrowing. "And who are you to interfere?" His tone was dismissive, and I realized he hadn't changed at all. I'm someone who cares about Emily, Gabriel said, his voice soft yet firm. And you should respect her space. Respect. It's easy to say that when you have no idea what really happened between us, Lucas retorted, anger bubbling in his tone. And you think that justifies your betrayal? Gabriel replied, standing his ground. Emily deserves more than you can offer. She has become an incredible woman, and you no longer have a place in her life. I looked at Gabriel, feeling a wave of gratitude. He was there supporting me, and that gave me courage. Lucas, you need to understand that I'm no longer willing to be the woman you cheated on. I'm on a different path, and you don't have a place in it anymore, I declared, feeling the strength in every word. But I can change. I can make things right. Lucas was almost pleading now, but there was no room for that anymore. You can't just want everything to go back to normal because you regret it. The past doesn't disappear with words, I said, my voice calmer but firm. I can no longer be who I was, and you can't be the man I thought you were. He looked lost, and for a moment I felt almost guilty for his pain. But then I remembered all the nights I cried, all the times I felt alone and helpless because of him. I'm no longer your Emily, I said, and each word felt like a weight lifting off my shoulders. So, you really don't want to know about me? Don't want to give me a chance? Lucas asked, his voice now low and broken. No, I don't want to. I want to move on, and you should do the same, I affirmed, resolute. But I still love you, he said, and it hit me like a punch to the stomach. Love is not enough. Not when it comes with betrayal. I deserve more than empty words, I replied, my heart racing. Lucas looked at me, and for a moment I could see the man he had been before. But that didn't matter anymore. I had learned to love myself, to respect my own strength, and I would not go back. I hope that one day you find what you're looking for, Lucas, but it's not with me, I concluded, feeling that I had finally closed a chapter of my life. He stepped back, and I realized that the sadness in his eyes was not my responsibility. Clara and Gabriel were by my side, and I finally felt free. The strength I had found within me resonated more than any words. With one last look, Lucas walked away, and I knew that from that moment on, I had taken the reins of my life. I was the author of my own story, and I was ready to move on without looking back. The opening of my exhibition, a milestone I had secretly dreamed of for so long, was about to begin. The walls were adorned with my photographs, each representing a piece of my journey of self-discovery, and I felt a mix of nervousness and excitement. Clara was by my side, always my anchor, and Gabriel, with his encouraging smile, seemed to believe in me more than I believed in myself. I looked at the audience that was beginning to gather, admiring the images I had captured. You look amazing, Emily. Look at you, Clara said, pulling me into a tight hug. I smiled, but my attention was diverted when I saw Lucas enter the room. My heart raced instantly, and the feeling of being in a nightmare overtook me. He was there, standing as if nothing had happened, as if the betrayal that had torn me apart meant nothing. He looked so confident, so self-assured, and it deeply irritated me. Not now, I murmured to Clara as I tried to ignore his presence. But it was impossible. Lucas's gaze locked onto me, and I could feel the tension in the air. He approached, and every step he took seemed to echo in my chest. Emily, he started, his voice sweet and manipulative. I can't believe you're doing this. I just wanted to talk. You look incredible. Talk about what, Lucas? I forced myself to keep my composure even as anger bubbled inside me. About how you betrayed me. Or about how you broke my heart and destroyed all the promises you made. Lucas hesitated, his smile faltering. I was wrong. I knew I hurt you, and I just want a chance to make it right. I still love you. I laughed, but it wasn't a laugh of joy. It was a laugh that overflowed with pain. Love. You don't know what that means, Lucas. What you did is not love. It's selfishness. He looked around, realizing that some people were paying attention to our conversation. Let's talk privately, please, he said, trying to pull me to a corner. I can explain. Explain. What are you going to say? That you didn't mean to hurt me? That it was a mistake? I shook my head, feeling disbelief take over me. You don't understand. I don't want to hear your lame excuses anymore. I'm not the woman you once knew. I'm no longer afraid of you. Lucas was about to protest, but before he could speak, Clara intervened. Sorry, but you don't have the right to interrupt this special moment for Emily. She worked hard to get here, and you can't just show up to mess it all up again. Clara, please, Lucas began, but she was unwilling to back down. No, Lucas. You need to listen. You broke her trust. You made her feel less than she truly is. And now, on this night, she is rising again. You can't take that away from her. The tension in the room was palpable. People around us were watching, some with sympathetic expressions, others looking intrigued. I could feel the weight of their gaze, but strangely, it gave me strength. It was as if the energy of the moment was transforming into something positive, something I never thought I would feel again. You don't know what you're talking about, Lucas said, his tone becoming defensive. I still care about you, Emily. We can fix this. Fix? I nearly shouted, but I held myself back. You can't fix what's already broken. Trust is something that is earned, and you destroyed it. There's no remedy for that. Lucas was about to protest again, but then Clara turned to me, her look determined. Emily, you have something to show him. Something that needs to be revealed. My heart raced in my chest. What did Clara mean? In that instant, she pulled a photo from her bag and held it out toward Lucas. Remember this. This was a photo I took secretly. A photo that shows who you really are. The room fell silent, and all eyes were on us. Lucas looked at the photo, and his face paled. It was an image of him with the mistress. A captured moment that revealed the betrayal. Reality had become a mirror, reflecting not only my pain but also his actions. You thought you could get away with it, didn't you? Clara said, her voice firm. But you can't manipulate anyone anymore. The truth always comes to light. Lucas was speechless, his gaze alternating between the photo and my face. This isn't what it looks like, he finally stammered, but his voice sounded weak, as if he was losing strength with every second. No, Lucas. It's exactly what it looks like, I said, my tone now calmer but resolute. You exposed yourself, and there's no more room for your lies. You hurt me, and that pain taught me to be strong. I am no longer the woman you once knew. I am someone new, someone who doesn't need you. The people around us began to murmur, and I realized that some were moving closer, paying attention. The scene was becoming more intense, a kind of tribunal where I could finally expose the truth. I am not your property, Lucas. I am not your project. I am a woman who rose after being knocked down. And now I have a bright future ahead of me, with or without you, I declared, feeling the adrenaline coursing through my veins. He turned to the crowd as if seeking support. You don't understand. I truly love her. I just made a mistake. Love is not this, someone in the crowd shouted. Love is respect, trust. You don't really love her. The words echoed through the room, and I felt a wave of relief. That validation gave me courage, and I knew I was making the right choice. It was time to leave Lucas behind, to free myself from the chains he had placed on me. I deserve to be happy, I said, looking into Lucas's eyes for the last time. And my happiness does not include you. He stood there, shocked, as the truth settled between us. I had found my voice, and with it my freedom. Clara and Gabriel were by my side, and the strength I felt emanated from them as well. With one last look at Lucas, I turned and headed towards my exhibition, where my future awaited me. The room filled with applause, and I smiled, knowing that this was just the beginning.